Hello, grade 5. Our science lesson for this week is about natural resources. And throughout this lesson, I'm going to explain what a resource is, and we're going to identify some of the resources. I'm going to describe air, water, and land pollution. And finally, we are going to see how we can conserve our resources. So let us start our lesson with natural resources. Every living thing uses natural resources each day. What is a natural resource? By definition, a natural resource is anything useful or necessary for living beings that occurs naturally on Earth. Human beings depend on natural resources all the time. You use many of them without even thinking about it. Now, scientists classify resources into two main groups. First group are renewable resources. They are resources that nature can replace when they are used. For example, new trees grow to replace trees that get cut down. Another example, the water cycle constantly replaces water. We have to know that air, plants, animals, wind, and sunlight are other renewable resources. Second group are non-renewable resources. They are resources that nature cannot replace after they are used, so someday they may disappear completely. Minerals and soil are non-renewable resources. So, if used carefully, soil can last a long time, but if it is destroyed, it cannot be replaced. So, to summarize what we have explained on this slide, we can say that natural resources can be divided into two main groups. We have the renewable resources and the non-renewable resources. Now, we are going to talk in details about non-renewable resources. As we said before, a non-renewable resource is a resource that nature cannot replace after it is used. So someday it might disappear completely. Soil and fossil fuels are examples of non-renewable resources. What is a fossil fuel? A fossil fuel is an energy source formed deep inside Earth from the remains of organisms that lived long ago. Coal, natural gas, and oil are all examples of fossil fuels. We have to know that most of the energy we use comes from fossil fuels. Fossil fuels not only power cars and trucks, they are burned in many energy stations to produce electricity. So natural resources are used to make products of all sorts. Now we have to know that most natural resources travel long distances between the places where they occur and the places where they are needed. For example, the United States uses more oil than it produces, so the United States must import oil. What is an import? An import is something brought into a country to be sold or traded. But an export is something sent out of a country to be sold or traded. Now, let us move to another topic, which is pollution. Natural resources help people do and make many things, but the use of natural resources can also cause pollution. What is pollution? By definition, pollution is the contamination of air, water, or soil by materials that are harmful to living things. And we already know that air, water, and soil are some of the most important natural resources. Now let's see in details each type of pollution. Air pollution comes from the burning of fossil fuels. Cars and trucks are the greatest source of air pollution. Air pollution can harm the health of people, plants, and animals. Water can become polluted when trash, eroded soil, or chemicals from manufacturing, farming, and landfills get into rivers, lakes, and oceans. These pollutants can also enter groundwater. And finally, soil can be polluted too. Chemicals leaking from storage sites or runoff from roads and parking lots can soak into soils, making them unusable for growing crops. Let us see how do people conserve resources. You probably don't think about where trash goes after it is picked up. The truth is that trash is a big problem in our countries. There is too much trash and not enough places to put it. Garbage that is not disposed of properly pollutes natural resources, especially soil and water. So conservation is more important than ever. What is conservation? Conservation is using resources carefully and not wasting them. The three R's, which are reducing, reusing, and recycling, help conserve our natural resources. Reduce means to use less. When you reduce the amount of waste you make, less of it ends up buried in landfills. For example, try using the same cloth shopping bag instead of a new plastic or paper bag every time you go to the grocery store. You can reuse an item by turning it into something else. For example, you can get your brother's old t-shirts, tear them into strips, and use them to wash the car. Reusing takes time and creativity. A recycled product is one made from materials recovered from thrown away items by reprocessing them. Your backpack, for example, could be made from recycled plastic bottles. Now in this picture, we can see that at a recycling center, discarded items are sorted for reprocessing. Now, let us talk in details about soil conservation. Soil is one of the world's most valuable natural resources. Dirt or soil contains nutrients that plants need in order to grow. Most of our foods comes from crops that grow in soil. Animals also depend on soil to provide the food they eat, and many organisms such as earthworms live in soil. People have developed ways to help conserve soil. Some farmers rotate crops or plant a different crop every other year. Intercropping is the planting of more than one crop in the same field at the same time. The crops protect each other from insects and diseases. They also protect the soil from erosion. Using hydroponics can help grow plants without soil. People can grow certain plants in water or another material such as sand. Hydroponics actually conserves water and soil and uses less space than traditional farming. Finally, let's talk about water conservation. It is easy to take water for granted. After all, water is almost always there when you need it. We already know that water is a renewable resource, but only some of it is available for use. It is important to keep an eye on how much water we use to make sure we always have enough. Water conservation can start at home. Fixing leaky faucet that drips at the rate of 1 drop per second can save more than 31 liters of water every day. You can collect rainwater in a barrel or use a drip irrigation system to water your garden regularly. And drip irrigation slowly delivers water right to a plant's roots, so water is not lost due to evaporation or runoff. In this picture, we can see that turning off the water when you brush your teeth can save about 11 liters of water per day. That's it for today, grade 5. Thank you for your attention.